Alright, so I'm back with another game over the board game that I played, and this was in Chicago several years ago. It was probably like 2017, 2018, around that time, back when I was in early high school or so. And in this game, this was round two of a tournament that I was playing, and I had the white pieces in this game, and I was playing in 1971, and I opened up with D4. So this is a very interesting game because I'm able to catch my opponent completely off guard with an opening trap quite quickly, leading to a quick win, about 26 moves or so. But the game was over much sooner. So d4, d5, c4, c6. So this is the Slav defense. After knight f3, knight f6, I choose to go e3. So this is a move order that I really like. I've been playing it for a long time, and I have very good results with it. So black goes bishop f5 here, and I go for c takes d5, and after c takes d5, I go knight c3. So this is a very tricky move order. Black has to be a little bit careful here. And he goes for a6, which is a fine move, but you have to be able to follow it up correctly after knight to e5. So I'm jumping my knight in, and I think you have to go knight c6 here. You might be able to get away with knight bd7, but knight c6 is the best move. And unfortunately, he makes the losing move here. It's hard to say it's the losing move this early, but it leads to a very, very nice position for white. So he goes e6, which allows me to go g4. So the problem with this is after he goes bishop e4, I play f3, and he drops his bishop back. Now I go h4. And the idea is I'm threatening to trap his bishop with h5. And if he moves this h pawn to h5 or h6, I'm just going to take his bishop and double his pawns. The split pawns are bad. You don't want to split these pawns up because then e6 is weak. Your king's a little bit weaker. And this pawn would be weak on g6. And you don't really want to do that for black. But unfortunately, there's no way around it in this position. So he goes h6, and I do that. And then I play bishop to d3. Immediately targeting this pawn. The engine says it's a mistake, but it's +2, and it's doing quite well for white. He goes bishop to b4, which is a strange move because he allows me to just take this pawn. However, it's very difficult to maintain that pawn anyway. I would generally recommend going king f7 and then trying to hang on to that pawn temporarily. Maybe you can give it up, but the problem is queen to c2 is going to end up winning that pawn regardless. So he just chooses to give it up. I take on g6 with check, and he goes king e7. And I go bishop to d2. Just breaking this pin. I'm maybe trying to bring my queen out and then castle queenside, but I'm really just securing this knight and sort of developing this bishop. So he goes queen to c7. And I go king to f2. So I'm just going to march. He was threatening to go queen g3 check and invade with his queen. So I'm just going to go king f2 and king g2 and just park my king over here because you really can't attack my king. After rook f8, obviously I don't want to allow knight takes g4, but after king to g2, my king is quite safe over here. So my position is looking quite nice here. The engine has me up big, about 3.5 after I caught him with this opening trap. He goes knight c6, I go a3, he takes, I take back, and he goes rook to c8. I go rook to c1, and he goes queen to d6, just getting his queen off of the file with my rook. But I'm up a pawn here, and I'd like to make the argument that my king is safer than his king on e7. His king on e7 doesn't really know where he wants to go. So it's tough to suggest moves here for black. Meanwhile, I can just keep developing my pieces. I go queen to b3, threatening b7, and he goes b5 to defend it with a6. And in this position, I just go bishop to e1. This is a very slick move. I'm looking to reposition my bishop to g3, and this is a very nice move because I'm threatening to bring my bishop to g3, but I'm also introducing a new threat of rook takes c6, which ends up happening in the game. So he goes e5 here, which is just far too risky because his king is stuck in the middle of the board, and I can kind of start to attack him now. So I go rook takes c6. It's not the best move. It might be the best move according to the low depth engine, but I don't think it's the best move, but I think it's a very strong move. And after queen takes c6, I go bishop to b4 check, king to e5, and then I bring my other bishop in with bishop to f5 check. So my bishops are slicing across where his king is currently sitting, and I've given up an exchange, but my position is quite nice. The two bishops are they're dominating. They're covering a lot of squares. His king is very unsafe, and after king f7, which is forced, I simply go d takes e5. And as you can note, all of his pieces are hit right now. His rook on f8 is hit. His rook on c8 is hit, and now his knight on f6 is hit. And there's no way to hold on to all those pieces. And I'm also pinning him along this diagonal, and his position is really falling apart. He tries to go knight e4 to maybe get some sort of counterplay, but he simply resigns after bishop takes e4. And you can't take back because of the pin. And in this position, it's really hard to suggest anything. Something like queen c4 is probably the best try. But even something like queen to d1, just dropping the queen back, is going to be good enough to win here. Since all of his pieces are still hit, I simply have too much initiative in this position. So he simply resigns after knight e4 and bishop takes e4, which ends the game quicker. But it was very tough for him regardless. So I thought that game was very interesting just because it highlighted an opening trap that I think is very useful to know. Way back when my opponent here goes after I go knight e5, when he goes e6, an important idea that you must know for black and for white is that g4 is going to be very good for white. So that's all for this video, but I'm going to keep making more videos, and I'll see you guys.